Hi everyone, I'm excited to announce version 6.7 is officially available on the website now. This is an update I'm very excited about just because over the past few updates I've added in a lot of features and a lot of user requests, but I decided to take a step back and focus more on the internal structure of how the software is handling, for example, database transactions and altering the database. And the reason why is because I saw one user post on the forum not too long ago that he had a message pop up about a database being corrupted. Now, I've had the same thing actually 2 races ago. First time I've seen it in a long time. If I ever see this message where the database is corrupted, now I just hit OK, and then what happened was the read simply came in twice, and I simply deleted the duplicate. So this was a race that was a 6-hour race, and across the entire 6 hours, there were 30-minute waves, and the goal is to try to leave that group and then come back within 30 minutes so you can start again with the next group. And so that was the objective, is to try to hit like 30 miles. And so there was thousands of reads when it comes across that 6-hour period. And I had this happen twice during the race. So now anything that pops up during the race, of course, that's unexpected. That's not good. That's not fun. And so, but thankfully this is no big deal. But it's still not good that that something's going on that shouldn't be happening. So I really want to put focus on, okay, let's look at how the software is handling the connection with the SQLite database. And so I've restructured that entire thing. And so that's the main emphasis over the past 5 days. But I want to go and add in some nice new features I think you're going to enjoy. So let's go ahead and dive into what's new with version 6.7. So kind of a minor thing, but it is a quality of life thing. Whenever you're pulling races in or pulling participants in, either from a CSV file or some Excel file, or if you're doing like we're doing here, where we're pulling events in, let's say from Run Sign Up or one of the other online registration providers. In the past, whenever you pull in the different races, now I've got a lot of races in mind, so it's going to take a little bit here. I like to maximize the screen, and then you scroll down to whatever date range you're looking at. Now you can also specify what is the date range at which it pulls from. I've got mine, I think, pretty large on this computer, so I'm going to pull in all of this coming weekend's races, and here we go. One of the things that's improved is now typically I hit yes, I want to go ahead and pull in the participants, even though I'm going to do dynamic bib assignment, and I'm going to go into race day with no participants in the system, in the software, because again, we're going to use dynamic bib assignment, and the software allows you to say, hey, only pull in those who received a bib number through the check-in process, maybe the night before or the day of the race. And that way you're only pulling in those who truly showed up. And that way, because a good 15 to 20% of people that register don't end up showing up. And the software can give you a more accurate count of who's on the course whenever you pull in only those who checked in. But I still like to go ahead and pull everybody in, so I'm going to hit yes here. And in the past, you can pick a random number and start with whatever you want. But if you're going to do dynamic assignment, it doesn't matter what number you start with, because we're going to get rid of these numbers anyway. So I'm going to hit 1. And you'll see something that's new is as you go through the races, we're pulling in 4 races here, it will remember the last number that was assigned. And so that's a minor thing, but it's a quality of life thing for sure. So if we hit yes here, I think the next race is the 5K. It's going to pull in a lot more people. And you'll see that after the 5K, now we're at the 10K, so it started off with the next number. So small thing, but definitely makes your life easier. If you want to have, if you want to use this feature with pre-assigned numbers, you don't have to worry about gaps or where did it, pull in and where things are at. So a couple other small things that you'll notice with version 6.7 is as you select a race, it's actually a lot snappier. It pops right up real fast instead of a lot of drawing going on. And that also is the same thing whenever you pull up the timing screen. When you click on time race, you might see a slight hesitation before it pulls it up, but instead of seeing about a second or two screen where it kind of is drawing the controls as you click on it, now when you click on time race and you select your races, it pops right up real fast. And so it's just a lot snappier, a lot faster. Another thing you'll see too is that whenever you pull the screen up, in the past, I made it to where required bib number was not checked by default until race day. And the reason was because my assumption was if you're hitting sync before race day, then you're probably doing pre-assigned numbers and you want to pull everybody in. And if you're hitting sync on race day, my assumption was that you're doing dynamic bib assignment and you don't want to pull in those people unless they have a bib number or they've been checked in or both. So you have that option, one or both. And so that was a safety thing I tried to do for your protection. What I found is that some newer users or some people that may not be aware of how the syncing works, they would pull the screen up and it's not checked the day before, right? And so they pull the screen up and maybe they would simply hibernate their laptop with the screen already open. And so the next morning, they would pull the screen up, it's not checked, they would hit sync, and it pulls everybody in. And then they call me, maybe in a panic, saying, oh my goodness, I've got random numbers assigned to random people. We're dynamically assigning numbers. In that case, the simple solution is just delete everyone out of the timing software, check the box, hit sync, and then it'll only pull in those with the correct numbers that are assigned on run sign up, or whatever platform they're using. But I just wanted to point out that going forward, this required checkbox is going to be checked before race day, after race day, on race day by default, because I feel like that's the safer option. If someone, and also the other thing is more people are doing dynamic bib assignment, like a lot more than before. And so that probably needs to be the standard going forward, is that this checkbox is checked. So again, that's a safety thing. I'm just trying to do whatever I think is going to cause the least amount of headaches for myself and for the users. Okay, so one of the bigger things that's in this update is you'll see a new option here that says partial or full. It defaults to partial. And in fact, the very first time you do a sync, when you pull this screen up, it will be a full sync, even though it says partial. And the reason why is because partial represents that when you click sync, it's going to pull in only the people that that have been modified on run signup since the last sync. And so now that I've clicked sync once, if I click it again, it should be even faster because there's no one, nothing has changed. I haven't checked anyone in, haven't changed anyone's info online, I haven't swapped anyone's races. There has not been any new people that have registered. And so the partial sync, again, is simply anyone that has been modified since the last sync. So again, your first sync will always be a full one, and then anyone thereafter will be a partial. And so that definitely makes things a lot faster and easier on race day whenever you are syncing frequently and you just want to pull in just the small changes. So if you got an area with poor cell coverage, or you've got hundreds of people around you all hitting the same cell tower and things are kind of slow, well then this will make it a lot faster. Plus, whenever I'm doing a full sync, then you'll notice that I can, even if I had hundreds of people and things are going slow, or even thousands of people, the software will now do the sync in the background. So when I hit sync, in fact, let me switch it to full and see if I can catch it. If I hit sync, I can click around while it's working, and you'll see that it's not freezing at all. So if you pull the timing screen up and you're timing a race, but you minimize the timing screen so you can do maybe a final sync, maybe some people checked in late or whatever, then you can safely do that without freezing up the timing screen or worrying about, what if it takes 20 seconds while that thing's syncing and it's, locking the system up. So that's another nice improvement with this update. Now let's look at probably one of the funnest features with this update. So if you click on time race, again, you're about to see that whenever I pull the races in, it's a lot snappier. It pops right up. So if I click OK, then boom, there they are. It just appears all at once instead of a lot of drawing going on. And so if it's not race day for these events, then you'll see this new feature here that says Start Chip Simulation. And so what this does is you can specify the rate at which tag reads are occurring, or the cadence at which reads come in. And so this actually will pull a number range from the smallest number you have assigned in your race up to the biggest number you have assigned in your race. So if you had a race from 1 to 3,000, then this tag read simulation is going to pull anywhere from 1 to 3,000, and it's going to be totally random. The same way, if you had people just randomly standing around your finish line, it's going to be every number under the sun just kind of popping up whenever. And so this is a great way, even if you have no readers in your system at all, even if you don't own a reader, then this is a great way at which you can do a simulation of what does it look like whenever chip reads are coming in. So what's great about this is this allows you to do a few things. Number one, if you have an older laptop and let's say you're timing a big race and you're kind of curious, like, oh, can my laptop handle a flood of reads from the starting line or from the finish line? Well, you can bump it down to where you have a read every 100th of a second to see, what does that look like? Can my system handle it? As those reads are coming in, can I still click around and do things and pull up reports and publish results and all that stuff? You can test hooking up your camera and for the automatic photo capture. You can, now I would not recommend using this feature if you're going to send text out. You don't want to, the texting occurs silently in the background, but still, if you're an Endurance member, you don't want to check this box if you're doing the tag read simulation, because obviously those people will get texts with you testing the system out. So, but the tag read simulator goes anywhere from 1 read every 100th of a second to 1 read every 5 seconds. So it's a great feature here that you can use to check the kind of a pressure test of your system, but also this allows you to, what I like to do as I've been playing with it, is I will turn it on and let it dump all the reads in real quick, and then I will pull up the division results to make sure, like, hey, all my divisions are filled out like I expect they would be, right? They all look right. And so this is a great way to make sure that, for example, what if you had your female division set up as a male gender only or something? Well, if you see something that doesn't look right, then it's easier to catch when you have a bunch of dummy results in the system. So let's go ahead and play with this and see what it looks like. Again, I will point out that this feature is not available if any of these races are scheduled for today, because this is a super dangerous feature if you mistakenly click that button on race day. So I totally hide it from you. You don't have access to it. Definitely could cause catastrophe on race day if you had this feature available then. So, but yeah, so let's go ahead and look at how it works. So one thing I'll point out, and it's always been this way, but some people are not aware of it. The software lists all the races in order that they're scheduled to start. So the half marathon is scheduled for 7, so it is listed first, and it also is checked off. So the software says, hey, I know you're starting this race first, so I'm going to check it for you, and I can hit the space bar, or I click this button, or I can click the start button here, and it'll start that race. Now, if I wanted to start all 4 races at the same time, I could just check them all off. Now, obviously, if they were scheduled to start at the same time, the software would have checked them all off for me. Now we're going to check them all off just so that we can use a tag read simulator, and you can see what that looks like. Now you can turn on the simulation at any time before you start a race, after you start the race or whenever. Now, if you have a reader, you know that the software automatically connects and automatically begins accepting reads the moment you pull the screen up if you have the reader on and it's hooked up with an Ethernet cord, or you can do a wireless connection or whatever. So when we turn the tag read simulation on, I would turn it on, like a real thing, like right here. So if I turn it on, you'll see this kind of go from gray, or actually white to gray. And the reason why is because I don't have any readers, so this is actually a disabled look. But if I did have a reader hooked up, it would actually be flashing green right now, or solid green, because it's feeding reads in so fast. If I drop it down slower, you'll see that after it gets done processing those reads, you'll see now it's 1 read every 3.5 seconds. You see it kind of go in there. And so let's go ahead and pretend like we're going to practice doing a chip start. So our reader is hooked up, it's already on, and let's go ahead and flood the reads through real quick. Let's go as fast as it'll go. And so I'm going to do capture chip start. So I'm going to tell the software that when the race begins, I want those reads to come in immediately as chip start times. That's what this is doing when you check capture chip starts. And so let's go ahead and start the race. And in fact, you know what, just for the fun of it, let's go ahead and go as slow, about every half second, just so you can see it coming in, and then I'll flood them in real quick in a second. So let's go ahead and start all 4 races at the same time. So here they go, and you'll see randomly every now and then a read will pop up. Now, this random number generator, you actually see the numbers it's generating here in the top right. It's totally random, so it may pull the same number 4 times before it finally hits one of these over here. And how you'll notice is that, for example, this 1358, if it gets updated to a new time before one of these others is 0, that means obviously that bib number 11 was picked up again. And so it's a total random number generator. And so you see some of the time starting to flood in every half second now. Let's go ahead and speed it up to as fast as it'll go. And you'll see that even though it's as fast as it'll go, my system is handling everything just fine. The clock is not hesitating, and so it's all good here. And so we should be getting close to the end of all the chip reads. And you'll see it struggling to, that random number generator hasn't hit 4 yet, hadn't hit 21 yet, eventually to hit those. There it goes, there was 4, I just saw it. So yeah, here we go. So now we are going to pretend that everyone has now left the starting line. So I'm going to say stop the simulation. Okay, so now no more reads are coming in. And so the last few of the reads that were flying in have been processed. And we are going to pretend that everyone has left the starting line. And so, and again, if you have been using the software for a while, you can have races where you can have people starting and finishing at the same time. And so when you have that, you'll see this flashing green and yellow. Green here says accepting finishers. Yellow means you're capturing starts. So it's flashing both to say, hey, you can actually do both. So if John Doe runs across a read zone right now, the starting line, and it is the first time it's seen John Doe, then it knows, oh, he must be starting because I haven't seen him before. Now, when you have them both checked off, then this feature called auto finish gap is here, and that represents how long does it need to be before I consider John Doe a finisher. Well, right now it's set to 10 minutes. And the software tries to automatically calculate that for you. Now, it does do a maximum of 10, but you can bump it up higher if you need to. And so basically, if it's been more than 10 minutes since I've seen John Doe, assume the next time I see his tag, he's a finisher. And that's if you leave both of these checked. Now, it's best for most races, though, to say, hey, I'm accepting only starts, and then after everyone leaves, then you simply switch it to say I'm accepting only finishers. And that way, if someone was missed at the start somehow, then the system's going to treat them as a finisher whether or not they were picked up at the start or not. If you leave both of them checked, then John Doe might be finishing the race, but if it's the first time the software saw him, it's going to treat that as a starting time. Now, it's not that hard to convert that starting time to a finishing time, but it's just something that you as a timer, you don't want to have to be watching the system like a hawk. It's better to just tell the system, I'm only doing finishing time. So treat everyone as a finisher. So that's what we're doing here. And so now we've switched this to be all green, which means we're accepting finishers for all these races. And let's go ahead and slow this down so you can see reads coming in about every 1 second. And so here they come. I did not realize how irritating that ding would be, and so I'm doing a voiceover for the rest of this video because throughout the video here, I was letting it add reads the entire time. So here what I'm doing is I'm simply increasing the rate at which reads are coming in. You'll see now that the system is going one read every 100th of a second, and you'll see that the clocks are still running just fine. And you will see that the occasional freezing or stopping as it's processing here. And what I'm pointing out is the more stuff that you have the UI doing, for example, I switched away from the athlete tab on the right to a different tab, and it actually will process faster. Now, at this point, we've actually got reads for most of the finishers, so it's struggling to find, when it's going through the random numbers, most of them are already finished. And so here in a second, I believe I delete all the reads, or at least the majority of them, and you'll see that without the athlete tab selected, it just flies through them. So if you had a really large race, let's say 5,000, 10,000 plus people, then there may be some things at the starting line, which actually the starting line, nothing is updating on the right except for the chip differential column there. But if you had some crazy scenario where a finish line, for example, with 10,000 plus people coming in or more, 20,000 people, whatever, then if you've got a laptop that is not the most top of the line system out there, then you may want to find yourself not selecting the athlete tab just to kind of help keep it from freezing up. Which again, we're talking about a situation where consistently for a long time you're going to have hundreds of people coming in a second or whatever. So it's highly unlikely, but it's a great way. The point is, it's a great way to pressure test the system, and while you've got reach coming in, maybe pull up the division results to make sure that looks right and has no hesitation there. Um, so that's kind of what we're doing here. So my hope is that you find this tool to be a great teaching tool if you want to train other timers, or if you don't own RFID equipment yet, but you want to see how it all works, then you can teach yourself like, hey, how do I capture chip starts? What's the process? Well, you can turn on this tag read simulator and then go through and check the boxes on the left, telling this system you're doing a chip start or chip finish. And, you can just play with it like you've got a system here. So it's a great teaching tool for you. It's a great teaching tool for, maybe someone you're training to help you out on the weekends. So that's kind of what we're talking about here in this part of the video. All right, and the final thing before I sign off here is whenever you're done testing, of course, you can go to the action keys on the right. I'm not, again, I'm doing a voiceover in this part of the video, but you can click on the action keys, and then there's a option to either clear the results if you've been publishing them to test everything out. You can also delete the result sets. Now, the clear option is what you want to use if you have QR codes that go straight to that result set. The delete option is if you want to delete the results and the result set. And then finally, on the timing screen, whenever you're done testing, you can reset all the races back to 0 and wipe away all the results. That's really easy to do. Just click on the clock for that race, and then you'll see an option that says finish race. And then once you click finish, that gives you the option to reset the race back to 0. So that's how you can do a full test of everything, run through it, play with it as much as you want. I'm finding this is a really fun feature to play with. And so my hope is that you guys will use version 6.7 and enjoy it, and then report back on how it's working for you. So thank you guys, and I hope you enjoyed the video.